Hello and welcome to another JavaScript Algorithms and Data Structures certification tutorial. Today we are going to go over the Roman numeral converter project. So let's get started. So like I said in my last video, the first thing that I do when I look at these challenges is I go and I look at these basically user stories or test cases or whatever you want to call it. And this is pretty straightforward. We just need to convert a number to a Roman numeral. That's our only objective. And there are a variety of ways to do this. There may be better ways to do this in order to make this more expandable, you know, if you're going to go into higher and higher numbers. But this is the way I did it. So the first thing I did is I created this numerals array. And I did this so that I had a reference to the value that each Roman numeral letter represented. So you'll understand why I ordered it in this way and created these objects when I explain this function right here. So another thing real quick before we get started talking about this function is that this variable num is passed by value, and in JavaScript we want to avoid mutation, so that is already inherently done for us. So if we were to edit num in some way, for example right here I modify the num, the number that's passed in here, the variable that's passed in to convert to Roman, is not modified. And that, if it is modified when I pass it in, that means that this function is not a pure function, and that means that that variable that was passed in here is getting modified, and we don't want that to happen. We want to avoid mutation in JavaScript. But inherently, when you pass an integer into a function, it's already passed by value, so that's already taken care of. And what that means is that this num is a new variable. It's not referencing that old variable that we're passing in the convert Roman. So the first thing I do here is I set a variable called my numeral, and this is the string I'm going to add our numerals to, as you can see. So I go through each numeral in this array, and we're going to map through these. And then for each numeral, I'm going to find out how many letters we can fit. A better way of describing that would be, okay, so let's say we get the number 39, right? So I'm going to do a console.log right here. Okay. So you'll see that the value 1,000, right? The number of numerals we can fit in 39 is 0 for 1,000, because 39 divided by 1,000 is less than 0. But once we get to 10, which is this value right here in the log, we'll see that we have the value 3, and that means that once we hit here in our loop, we can fit 3 of these 10s into 30. And that means we're going to have 3 of the x's, because 10 corresponds with the x's. Alright. So right here we're saying, okay, well if we have some letters to put into num letters, then let's do it. And also what we're going to do is we're going to subtract from num. We're going to take away those 10s that we're putting into our numeral, so we don't count them again in our next values, so that doesn't affect them. And then right here there's a small loop that's going to continue to put letters, add letters to my numeral until we're out from the num letters variable. To summarize, we're going to loop through all our numerals, and if our number that we are given can divide into one of these numerals, for example 39 can divide into 10 3 times, right? So that means that we need to add 3 of those letters that 10 represents. So if we do have that situation where a number can divide into one of our numerals, then that's what we'll do. We will say, okay, we have a number that can divide into our numerals. Now let's add that, however many times it can divide into 10, however many times 39 can divide into 10, let's add that amount of numerals to it. And that's what this loop right here does. And this line of code right here, it removes the number of 10s that we are adding to the numeral in order to make the number ready for the next test, if you want to call it that. Because if we didn't have this line of code, then how many times does 39 go into 9, right? That's the question we're asking, instead of how many times does 6 go into 9. Or sorry, excuse me, how many times does 9 go into 9? Because what we want, if we input 39, we want it to output that Roman numeral. But if we have the num equal 39 when it's testing this and we don't remove the 10s, then what will happen is that is going to do something like so, something like that, right? And we don't want that Roman numeral, we want this Roman numeral. Thanks for watching the video. My name is Alex Cannon. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like more like this. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.